Hello gamers, today I am checking out a game that I always wanted to play way back when I first saw videos of it on YouTube, but I never got around to checking it out. That being Firewatch, which was released way back in the historic times of 2016, which, if I'm being honest, I didn't think this game came out that long ago. But I'm pretty sure COVID has skewed the time, so like 2020 to 2024, they're all just the same year in my head. And I may be late to the party, but hey, at least I am at the party. Firewatch is a game that, and I know I've said this a lot before, reminds me of Life is Strange. Gives off mad Life is Strange vibes. From its art style down to its gameplay / like walking simulator-esque game. The game's art style, however, very much suits the atmosphere that the game is going for. Especially the use of like oranges for the burning fire in the night sky and the sun rising over the player's little bit of forest that he's looking after. And one of my favourite things about games like this is that you can enjoy it independent of your computing hardware. And don't get me wrong, I do love the next gen amazing looking Unreal Engine 5 games, but at the same time, there is something nice about games with incredible narratives that almost everyone, from someone who plays on a $2 potato to a $20,000 NASA style computer, can run. But that's enough of that. It's time to look at the game itself. And I feel I want to start with something that Firewatch does very well, and that is the way it builds up these characters to the point that it got me to care about them even in the game's minuscule runtime of about 3 hours. And also the fact that we only see a total of 3 people in the whole game, and talk to absolutely none of them in person, is just, how did they make me care for these people? And the one person that your character has the most connection to, he literally only talks to over radio and never sees her throughout the whole game. Anyways, the game's main character is a person by the name of Henry, which also from here on out, major spoilers will be discussed, so I highly recommend that you check this game out first for yourself, and then come back and watch the rest of this video. Or don't even come back and watch the rest of this video, just definitely check out the game, because it is incredible. Henry is an older man when you take control of him, on his way up to the Firewatch station for the first time. However, at the start of the game, there is this quick little semi-questionnaire thing where you live through Henry's younger years, making small decisions about his life. It walks you through some of the more important parts of his life, like meeting his future wife, Julia, for the first time, and then them getting married, getting a pet dog. Then Julia starts to have some issues at work, and we come to find out those issues are due to early onset dementia, which might be one of the biggest gut punches I've received from a video game within the first 5 minutes. Now, no matter what choices you pick from here, Julia will end up being put into a home to help with the early onset dementia. And this is when Henry will go away to work in the Firewatch service and try to come to terms with Julia's new life. Throughout his time at the Firewatch station, he talks to someone who mans another tower in the area, Delilah. And throughout all the drama that he goes through at the station, we see him slowly grow closer to Delilah, and maybe a bit further away from his wife Julia, who at this point in the story is back in her home country of Australia, living with her family in another assisted home. To the point where later on in the game, if you pay close enough attention, you'll realise that Henry stops wearing his wedding ring as he starts to warm up more and more to Delilah, perhaps starting to even get romantic feelings towards her. At the end of the game, as Henry and Delilah are having their final conversation over the radio, Henry suggests to Delilah that she can move to Boulder with him, his home city, which is turned down by Delilah, saying that Henry needs to go to Australia to see Julia, even if for one last time. Delilah is probably the most important character to the story, both in terms of helping Henry on his personal journey throughout the summer, and also the fact that she is Henry's kind of supervisor, definitely superior in the Firewatch service. as she has been there for many years at this point, which also makes her the main push in the story of the game outside of Henry's relationship. Delilah knows Ned and his son Brian Goodwin, the people who were staying at the watch station that Henry is stationed at before Henry. Brian, the son, being a point of contention within the story, as it is against the rules for a kid to be staying at a Firewatch tower. However, Delilah and Brian had a sort of budding friendship going along during his stay, so Delilah let him stay and would lie to multiple people about Brian being there. But apart from the fact that we don't know much about her, apart from maybe she has a boyfriend, maybe she doesn't, and she is an okay drawer, drawing a picture of Henry, from, of course, Henry's description of himself over the radio. But anyways, let's talk about the game's overall story. And for this story chat, I'm going to skip over the parts between Henry and Delilah about their relationship and focus on the actual story of the game. So after a long multi-day hike to the watchtower, Henry finally arrives and settles in, making contact with Delilah over the radio. Of course, Delilah being his boss for the summer. And as they are getting to know each other, some fireworks being set off in the distance are spotted within Henry's zone of the forest. So he is sent off to investigate, bringing his radio with him to stay in contact with Delilah. And after taking a little fumble down a hill, Henry arrives at a camp. Abandoned, but he finds a bunch of empty beer cans, a bottle of whiskey, the fireworks that were being set off earlier, and a trail of clothes which he follows to a lake, where he finds two teenage girls in the middle of a lake. The girls managing to flee before Henry can confront him. Mainly because I was scrolling through the communication options and I thought they were all to Delilah and not the teenage girls, so Henry just sort of stood there like a creep. But that's just because I was a bit stupid there. I blame the COVID I had at the time of playing this game. However, since Henry has the fireworks now, he does not see a point in giving chase after the girls and starts to make his trek back to his tower, going through a cave with a locked gate, which he later finds out is locked by the park service to stop would-be explorers from getting lost or hurt. However, they had lost the key to that gate many years ago. After exiting the cave, whilst climbing the rock face back to Henry's tower, he encounters a black figure of a man, just standing a couple feet above him, shining a flashlight at him. The man flees without saying a single thing. Henry, a little creeped out by this encounter, however, resumes his climb to his tower, settling down for the first of many nights upon the wooden structure. The next day, Henry is out doing some more hiking, which after following a small river, Henry finds a camp which must have belonged to those teens, which he picks up from context clues, I guess you could say. However, the camp looks like it has been destroyed, with a note mentioning a creep that the teens had encountered. Some of the things this creep did were things that Henry did, however others were not, implying that there might be another person out in the forest. A little concerned about what happened to the lost teens, Henry however resumes his job of looking for smoke, until a couple days later, whilst having some food, Delilah comes over the radio saying two teens had gone missing. Henry says that they should report this to the police, and then a couple weeks go by and Henry is sent out on a bit of a hike to collect supplies for his tower from a drop box. Jumping forward a lot of days now, Henry's 64th night on the watch is where there's a massive fire raging in the night sky, which looks absolutely beautiful if you ignore the fact that it's a burning fire, and also that cuts a little deep for me as the area around my real life house almost went up in a bushfire recently. However, I can confirm that the orange of the night sky when there's a fire looks pretty cool. Anyways, Delilah gives Henry the opportunity to name the fire, naming it the Flapjack Fire, a reference to a previous conversation the two had. However, I picked it because it was the funniest name out of all of them. With the fire being reported, not much can really be done apart from keeping an eye on it. So they decide to go back to bed, and a couple days later Henry is out for a little fishing trip at the local lake, when Delilah asks him to take a look around the lake for tracks, as some reports have been coming into the fishing commission about some odd stuff going on in the area. Whilst taking a look around, Henry finds a clipboard labelled Wapiti Station, with, and this is the creepy part, written copies of Henry and Delilah's conversation on the radio, including the missing two teens. Henry then sees another radio on the floor, heading over to it. As Henry is going to pick it up, he is attacked from behind and smashed over the head. Finally coming to an undisclosed amount of time later, talking to Delilah, she says that she is unaware of a Wapiti Station. However, there is a Wapiti forest just up from the lake. So Henry makes his way there when there is some kind of large fence surrounding the area. Henry unable to get into the fence, he then goes to a camp on the other side of his section where some firefighters are doing some controlled burns to try to control the flapjack fire. However, once arriving at the camp, it is seen that all the firefighters have gone, but Henry finds a memo mentioning the Wapiti Station there. And then, after collecting a fire axe and having a conversation with Delilah over the radio, a coughing noise comes through the radio. It being neither one of them.
Are you there? I had a thought.
Let's hear it.
You heard someone in the bushes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's assume we're being tailed. Or you are, at least. Where are you right now?
Just on my way back, in and out of trees in the middle of nowhere.
Do you see anybody?
No, definitely not.
All right, so tell me what you think of this. Did you just cough?
No. Did you just cough?
No.
Oh, fuck.
Fuck.
There isn't any way someone, like another lookout, could be on this line, is there?
No. Not without tapping our radios. Get in your tower, shut the door. Don't leave, and don't use your radio. I'll call you. Understand? I will call you.
And in a panic, Henry runs back to his station and locks the door. The next morning, Delilah comes over the radio all cheerful like nothing has happened, mentioning a poster about trees in the area, which of course turns out to be a hint to go to a certain area within Henry's section. And after opening one of the cash boxes laying around, Henry finds a brand new, hopefully untapped radio so no one can listen in to their conversations anymore. And now on a supposedly secure network, Henry makes his way into the fenced off area using the fire axe to open the door, finding the aforementioned Wapiti Station with a large tent and a bunch of monitoring gear in the area. And after finding a tracking device that leads to a file in the tent with more information on Henry and Delilah, stuff that they have apparently not even told each other. Then, as they are leaving, Delilah tells him to set the camp on fire. However, Henry says that it would be a bad idea, especially counting the other fire already raging in the area. As leaving the Wapiti forest, a bridge collapses as Henry jumps over it. Looking back, however, he sees that the camp has now been set alight with no idea how or who did it. Henry is awakened the next night from a beeping from the tracking device he took from Wapiti Station, going off to find it. After Henry finds it, he finds a bag with an alarm attached to it. After smashing the alarm system with his axe, Henry finds a key on the bag, a key to the locked cave door he passed on his first night there. When, over the radio, Delilah mentions seeing someone in his tower, asking if it is him. However, of course, we are not at the tower, so making a mad dash to try to catch the person doing this to them. Missing him, however, somehow. Even though I was like 2 meters away from the tower when she said that and I should have seen him. Anyways, finding a Sony Walkman attached to the door of his tower with a tape in it. Listening to the tape, it is Delilah telling him to burn down the site at Wapiti, which is also meaning, and something they don't really pick up on really, that The new radios are also tapped like the old ones. The next day, Henry decides that enough is enough and he is going to go into the cave. However, in a shock that shook absolutely no one as he enters the cave, the door is closed and locked behind him. Making his way deeper into the cave, looking for a way out, Henry comes across a single shoe on a ledge below him. But with no way down, he is forced to carry on to find a way out of the cave. Once back out on the surface, Henry finds a little fort in a mountainside belonging to Brian Goodwin. Also conveniently finding a bunch of anchors for climbing that Brian had hidden from his dad Ned. Returning to the cave with the anchors now, Henry makes his way deeper into the cave where, unfortunately, he comes across the corpse of a small child. Of course, this child being Brian Goodwin, who had fallen from the shaft above, where his anchor must have failed as it's sitting on the floor next to him. Getting out of the cave, Henry informs Delilah of the sad news. Delilah then tells Henry to return to the tower for the night, as they are both getting airlifted out the next day. The next morning arrives and Henry is packing up his stuff from the tower, ready to leave when the tracking device starts beeping one last time. Following it back to the source of the beeps, Henry finds a tracking collar and also a rope to climb up with another tape, which I'm just going to let the tape play out in its entirety right here. It is a tape from Ned, who had been living in the area for years.
Before it burns up. We've been causing each other a lot of headaches. Now I gotta go stake out a site that's as fit for living as the one you're about to find. You'll get it when you see it. You can't blame me for keeping an eye on you. Not after bumping into you back in May. Down by the cave, for croc's sake. I've been up here for 3 years. I kept it cozy. Winters are harsh as hell, and I ran out of books. But I got that antenna rigged up, and Delilah, she's a record you don't gotta flip. I kinda get why Brian took to her. About a week ago, I stopped worrying about you finding anything out, and that's right when everything went shithouse with you two. You guys don't know anything about having kids. All right, nobody knows nothing. It ain't Andy and Opie walking down the lake to fish every afternoon. It ain't Mayberry. But you gotta know I didn't kill him. All right, we were climbing. I was teaching him. Brian was uneducated in the way to do anything. He just fucking didn't sink his anchor the right way. You know, I thought about going back, having to answer questions, and having to get him put in the ground, and I didn't see the point. Don't come looking for me. Sorry about your wife.
Now, with the flapjack fire raging on, it is time to leave before it's too late. Whilst trekking to Delilah's tower, Delilah gets airlifted out, saying that the helicopter will return to pick up Henry. And after arriving at Delilah's tower, we have one last conversation over the radio, as Henry sits in Delilah's tower waiting for the helicopter to arrive, with the pilot then helping Henry into the chopper, and somehow, after this roller coaster of an amazing story, not counting the deceased Brian Goodwin, the pilot being the closest ever person that Henry comes to seeing this whole summer. And that is the story of Firewatch. There is a lot of criticisms towards the end of the game, which I do get. It's sort of abrupt and maybe not the best ending for such an incredible narrative it was before that. This, however, might be one of my favourite games I have played this year. And I mean, I've only played 2 games this year, but this is number 1. As I mentioned, the story is just incredible, even if I failed to describe it possibly as best I should have. I also love these sort of games where you need to put a little bit of work in to find out the whole story. Like, it is revealed that Ned is the one who was listening to you, but unless you read some of his notes in his underground bunker, you don't know where Wapiti Station comes into the story. Although, with saying this, there are some questions I felt that were left unanswered, which sort of add to the badness of the last little bit of the story. Like, why didn't Ned throw away the key to the cave? Why did he give it to Henry by putting it somewhere where the tracking device, which he knew Henry had, would pick it up? Did he mean to give the key to Henry? We just really don't know, and there's no notes that I have found that describe why Ned was doing that. And it's not like Ned wanted to return to society and be held accountable, as during the last sort of thing he mentioned he's just going further into the forest and hoping that the fire will cover his tracks. Which I do also see how telling a story through notes could be a bad idea. Like, I have no idea about that key, as I just mentioned, but maybe there is a missing note that I can't find about it. However, that just gives me a good enough reason to replay the game. But anyways, that has been my playthrough of Firewatch, a very interesting game that takes a look at one of the most fascinating parts of American history. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen the videos of people visiting the old Firewatch stations or towers in just incredible parts of the American national parks. Both in design, as they all seem to have very unique architecture, or at least some of them that I've seen, and of course, just absolutely stunning views of nature all around. Of course, having to be built on top of hills and mountains so they could see the fire coming. But hey, if you liked this video, maybe consider leaving a like. And maybe, only if you want to, maybe even consider subscribing. And if you even slightly think you might like this game, I highly recommend you check it out, because I guarantee you will 100% enjoy your time playing it. And if for whatever reason you do not enjoy your time playing this game, it's only 3 hours. I'm sure you've wasted more times on less. So it's definitely at least worth the shot.